he is and how well versed he is in the top lane, he can make anything work, really.
Of course, now we are into champion select, and remember, with Misfits poised to get their 3rd win, if they pull this out, they will be into the Summer Challenger Series. Euronics, more pressure on them than I think they've known in a long time. They did win out in the German Regional League.
Yes.
They've won that tournament. If they want to take this to the next level, they need to find 2 wins, and they cannot leave a single opening onto the side of Misfits. But the bans, they are remaining standard in this set. It's Lissandra, Nidalee, and Rise taken off the table. Do you expect we'll see any evolution of the bans here?
Azir, I would imagine, being taken away from Euronics. We know MagiFelix can play it. Lucian also, I'm cheating a little bit because I did just see it. But Lucian is not a surprise. Nice to see that he has been taken away, given that both teams put a lot of value on it. I like
that cheat. Yeah, for me, I really think Azir is going to be their 3rd ban. There's nothing. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
In my defense,
of course, no, yeah, I knew you were going to say Lucian anyway. I know. I believe in you.
Okay, so before I see the final ban, I'm going to predict that it has to be a Kindred. Kindred has to be the last ban to come out here for Misfits. It's been banned every single game so far. Definitely the red side. You don't want that to be the priority on the blue side.
How ready are you to be wrong?
God.
Oh, sweet, sweet is the joy of gambling on Pixel
So
bans.
I don't agree with the Rek'Sai ban from Misfits. Obviously didn't have a great game last game.
Wasn't the end-all be-all, but... Oh, that was my question. Is it first pick worthy?
It had to be a Kindred. The answer is
yes.
Obvious has been a monster on Kindred. He has had 3 games on that Kindred so far. He has rocked amazing scorelines across all 3 of them. And there is no way that Euronics would not pick Kindred first.
Could we call it the obvious pick?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect. Looking at the other side, though, the fast first rotation coming in on the side of Misfits, it is going to be Victor and Caitlyn. Okay. So Caitlyn, once again for Yuki, not a pick we saw as much, but did pay off really well in that set overall.
So this is smart from Misfits because they know that the next best mid is something a little bit more unconventional, like the Kassadin that we've been seeing, the Vladimir that we've been seeing. We even saw the Echo. Kind of like Victor's the next best in terms of the tier list. So they want to pick that one up early. He doesn't really have bad matchups. He can hold his own in the majority of them, especially once he gets to tech score because he can just clear the wave all day. And the Caitlyn worked out again really nicely against Euronics. They know that the next best picks are Ezreal and Sivir, and neither of them really work. So Euronics once again going to look for the lane swap, and for what we saw last game, Misfits made the lane swap work much better than Euronics were able to.
Interesting, of course, as these bans start to come in. Misfits have the mid laner, have the AD carry. The AD carry support response on the opposite side, so saving the priority for top and mid, trying to get as much information as possible. Sivir and Bard now locked in. Bard, we've seen be a huge playmaker, and a huge disappointment depending on how the games have gone.
To be fair, Hado, he made some pretty small micro plays, like his dodge of the selfie ultimate. He saw the Streamer Shuffle coming in. He used that
magical journey just to hop over that little wall.
And the ultimate next to the Baron fight was actually really good. It was just a lack of damage that wasn't there to back it up. So I definitely know that he can make this work. The question is, it's the last game, the pressure's on. How much is that going to affect your ability to make these sort of plays and really come out ahead in the game that will equalize the score and still give you an opportunity to make it into Challenger?
Yeah, it's not quite as simple as, I mean, for us it's easy to just say equalize the score, right? But for this is the end-all be-all for Euronics, and I think have to be, you know, really taking their time on these pick rotations. Misfits clearly are. They do not want to take this to Game 5. They do not want to risk it. They are going to pick up the Braum and the Elise once again, so a very similar team composition to what we saw last time around. And I'm really curious what Euronics solo lane choices are going to be. There's a lot still left on the table. And are they going to go for the Echo one more time?
Risky to pick up the Echo. Obviously, you do have the flexibility of it, so you could put it up in the top lane. And by going for the Vladimir as well, you also have some flexibility in that. It will... The Victor versus Vlad matchup, we've seen this before. I actually believe we saw it come out from Selfie earlier on. And it allows the Vladimir to scale up, ramp up over time, and you will eventually outscale that Victor, especially in these mid-game team fights. You can have quite a significant impact. And it looks like the Echo is going to be in the top, and the Karma. We saw this from MagiFelix in his final game up against Kick. He went 1-0-9 in that game. Yep. And it's very much playing around their AD carry. We're moving back to the Euronics that we expected.
This is the double Sivir comp, it feels like, because we always talk about Karma as an answer to Sivir. Yes. Could we call it the Sonic comp?
The Sonic comp?
You
Yeah,
gotta
we can,
go
call it,
fast.
we can call that.
I feel like it's also like a little bit of the murder train. Like
The well, that's quite a jump.
Yeah. Children's game, murder train.
Yeah.
We're just gonna take that step there
We
because
got,
when
look
you
at the
use
Sonic comp, and or we could call it the murder train. I mean, sure, I guess that works.
that's what I want to call it. I'll tell you why.
Okay then.
You speed up with Karma. You speed up with Sivir. You've got unlimited jumps from Echo and Kindred
Magical
coming out.
Journey for the flanks too, if you want them.
Tempered Fate. I feel like if that Tempered Fate ever lands, you are instantly going to have an entire
You
team
get
on top of
surrounded
you.
by a mob, yeah.
Yep. Final pick coming through. Looks like it will be that Trundle in the top lane. Finally, he'll have a melee on melee matchup, so no more Gnar this time around.
Yes. However, maybe I'm going to stop trying because they're not going to build Rod of Ages on Echo. They're just not. I wish they would, and it'd be good into the Trundle in particular as well, because with Rod of Ages, you have no defensive stats.
It's just never
just
gonna
not
happen.
gonna happen. We saw
got
it though.
So baited.
We saw it.
It's true.
During the open qualifiers,
Yes.
low priority built it, and that Echo went to town.
We got so baited in the first game because
he went, yeah, he went for
Ruby Crystal, Sapphire Crystal, and we were
was
so
like, that's
tunneled
it,
in.
Catalyst of the Eons.
And
He's going for it.
He's got the Dark Seal, and he's got the Corrupting Potion. Like he's going AP.
He's
AP
doing
all,
it.
No, never.
Try it though at home. Let me know how it goes.
No, you can't just be like, hey people, here's a suboptimal, a potentially
it's
suboptimal build.
not suboptimal. It's great. You have so much more carry potential. It helps you scale more towards the late game.
the pros, and the pros say taunt us deviously by never building AP Echo in the top lane.
Man. It's not AP, it's just Rod of Ages. Then you go full tank. That's it. That's it.
So just as a quick update to everyone, the game needs to be remade briefly. The players loaded in. There was one issue, so we are going to reload back into that game. It is going to be a bit of a minute delay. And just to re-go through pick bans, I want to talk a little bit about the priority on Rek'Sai as a ban. You said it's kind of unfounded. What's going to happen now that this Kindred is open? Or has been picked up. I should say open, but has been picked up for obvious.
The thing about Kindred is while she does scale, she still has a very powerful early game. She can do a lot of damage. The Dance of Arrows, typically you're going to be ganking, not dancing. You're going to be ganking at about level 3, level 4.
I mean, it does involve dancing, technically. A lot of Dance of Arrows.
You're going to be dancing into lane at about level 3 or level 4. So you'll have maybe 2 points in your queue, depending on how you decide to spec it. And that does mean that you're going to have it up every 3.5 seconds, I believe the cooldown is at that point. So it's still up pretty regularly, and once you have the Manning Dread as well, the slow can be pretty devastating. You have a lot of utility, you have a lot of damage, especially with a red buff on your back too. So you can match the aggression from the Elise. What you can't do is match the hard CC. In a straight up 2 versus 2 matchup, it might be difficult. It very much depends on how well you can avoid those skill shots. But on a Kindred, you are pretty mobile. You can avoid them if you need to.
Yeah, of course. And something that we have to look out for as we move forward as well. And I think the interesting matchup as well is we now have this kind of comfort pick coming up from Felix in the Karma. And we've seen it in a couple different circumstances. We saw it against LeBlanc.
Seen it twice. Yeah.
Very well.
Yep.
Very well against LeBlanc. We haven't seen it against a Victor, I don't believe.
Do you know, we have. So we've seen it. The first time we saw it was actually low priority versus Misfits, and Misfits lost to low priority, who ran the Karma Lucian, and basically they went up against a really solid team fight comp where low priority had this ridiculous front line in the form of Maokai, Gragas, Trundle, and then you had the Karma and the Lucian providing backline support, but it was very much played around the Lucian with the Karma offering a bit of utility and support overall. And then we saw it again where it was Karma into, I think it was the Victor against Kick, and it's kind of like a very slow matchup where neither really can come out ahead, but you're slowly ramping up. And the thing about Karma is she's not super damage orientated. She is more towards utility, which is why we saw the Athenes come out, which I really liked actually, because it does improve your heals and shields, which Karma can both provide. But you're playing much around your AD carrying. Looking at the composition coming out from ESG where they have the Sivir and the Kindred, to me that's kind of saying, hey, obvious, we want you to be the big carry in this game.
And I think I like it too, because obviously not just having those shields in her kit, not normally having the heals outside of her ability to heal herself, but for those of you unfamiliar with the new Athene's Unholy Grail, it does still have the, I want to call it Equilibrium passive. I know that's not it. I know that's old Vigar passive. But essentially, if you have less health, it gives you health regen. If you have less mana, it gives you mana regen. But additionally, whenever you do damage, you store blood charges, and then you can expend those blood charges to heal your allies by using a shield on them. So it seems like a really excellent setup to keep your characters alive, especially Sivir, you know, that shorter range AD carry. She's got great wave clear. She's not as comfortable sieging. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out, especially as the Victor, you know, clearly not a supportive pick, clearly a damage-oriented pick. And like the difference in the early game, they're both going to do damage, they're both going to try to trade a lot. But as we approach the late game, these guys kind of take two divergent paths and really trying to figure out how these teams are going to utilize these picks.
Misfits much more about the team fight. They have the Trundle, they have, I mean, there's a lot of pick options there. Again, they're running the same composition with the Elise and the Braum, where you land the Cocoon, then you get those concussive blows, and because of Caitlyn's extremely long range, it's quite easy to proc those, so you can set up for that nice pick. But because you have Caitlyn, who will be building Ruin's Hurricane, and you also have the Victor, who has a lot of zone control with his gravity field, you are still very powerful in those team fights as well. So Misfits have a number of options, what they want to do moving forward, the skirmish, the pick, as well as split push and team fighting, whereas ESG, they're putting quite a lot of emphasis, I feel, on the Kindred moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. You can see obvious. I think this guy incredibly comfortable in this pick. This has been his best pick without a doubt throughout the course of the tournament. And it seems like this is great for them in the early game in terms of finding a lead. Bard very strong in that level 1. And I'm just wondering, where does Kindred put this attention? Do you have to give it into the mid lane? Selfie, of course, no cleanse available if the Karma ever does manage to land that snare.
I think you just abandon the lanes, as obvious, and you invest all of your resources into farming your jungle, the enemy jungle, get as many Kindred stacks as possible. Sivir can wave clear fine. I mean, she can get on, she can get by, Karma can get by, Echo can get by. Screw the lanes, just focus all on
Even
you.
if that's the right mentality, remind me never to jungle with you. Because that's not what I want to. I'm a horrible mid laner, so whenever I play mid, I'm like, you are camping my lane, you are going to carry me through this. You're gonna put my limp body on your back, and you are gonna carry me, and that means showing up to my lane every minute to provide pressure.
But I would do that because I'm a mid laner. I'm all about getting my mid laner fed.
There you go.
But that's not what I would do in this composition. If you were playing Karma, I'd be like, no, you're carrying me. I'm just gonna farm for 20 minutes. When I've got 3 items, then you and I can hang out. But until that point, you're not allowed to die.
Oh yeah. Not the cool kid till I've got things to bring to the party.
Yeah, exactly,
huh?
exactly.
That's a good way to build the composition. Of course, you know, one of the big things that we've seen affect Kindred too is how quickly she can get those stacks. Because we've seen a lot of variable games where, depending on early mark spawns, depending on how successful your early ganks are, or if teams are just willing to skirmish more, it does feel like a bigger risk skirmishing that Kindred in the early game on the side of Misfits, because if you do lose, not only are you giving up the 400 gold of the kill, you're also giving a stack over to that Kindred, and you just make her strong that much faster.
The thing is, very early on, if it's like level 3 on level 3, I would give the slight advantage over to the Elise, assuming she lands the Cocoon. If she can land that and set up her full damage combo, then she will win, because the Dance of Arrows cooldown nerf has affected Kindred's early ability to trade, because I do think that it was justified. Kindred should be an AD carry, and she should take a little while to get to a point where she can really do damage. You shouldn't be able to just out-trade an Elise at level 3. So yeah. I think that the nerf was justified, and it has hurt her early game dueling power a little bit. But her ability to in the mid game and the late game is still insanely strong.
And of course they balance out that nerf as well by adding additional damage onto the Wolf passive from
Wolf's Frenzy.
Yeah, from Wolf's Frenzy, and giving that extra damage to monsters. So her clear speed still relatively the same.
Still good, yeah.
Yeah, so not going to be a huge nerf here. But of course, here we are. This is it. Stakes are up. Misfits representing the United Kingdom and Ireland moving forward. They have 2 wins. They need to find 1 more, but on the side, on the blue side, representing Germany, the German Regional League, it's going to be Euronics Gaming, and this is it. They want to take this to Game 5. Misfits may not be so eager to give them that opportunity.
So, early game, it does seem like we've seen attempts at lane swaps in every single game. Wouldn't be surprised to see ESG try it one more time. You really don't want to go up against that Caitlyn, given as to how frustrating it can be, because Caitlyn with her very long range up against Sivir's very short range means that every time Sivir walks up to hit a minion, you're just going to take an auto attack to the face, and that just means that over time you will gradually get poked out, and if you happen to eat one Winter's Bite from Braum, then you're going to get stunned up and you're just going to have a difficult time. So ESG very likely to look for the lane swap, but as of now, they're not actually making any moves to set that one up.
Caitlyn is going to have vision of that bottom lane. They're going to walk across the ward as well. So if they want to take that swap, they now know. Had out, taking some early poke, built over Peacemaker. decent damage. Traded back with the Cosmic Binding. Of course, you can see junglers and top laners both starting on their top sides. We are at that 1 minute 35 second mark, so it doesn't look like either team is going to swap out here. No early camp start for the bottom lanes.
All right, so we're going to be seeing standard matchups. Now, what ESG really need to do here is just keep shoving up the wave, try and keep the Caitlyn as far up the lane as possible. The problem that you have is the risk of an early gank coming out from Elise from the flank. We already talked about how deadly the Braum Elise combo can be, where you get cocooned up. It sets up easily for those concussive blows. But fortunately, Sivir, she has a lot of wave clear, so she can try and keep the minion wave as shoved up underneath as possible. And when you're playing this Bard, you already mentioned it earlier on, how great he is at just putting a bit of damage down very early on.
Level 1, got the Meep Slap, got the Cosmic Binding, and really hard for that Braum to trade with you effectively, especially with those ranged auto attacks. But level 2 comes out, it starts to be a bit of a different story. Not going to add any more damage to that kit. Really just going to have that early power here. We're looking back at the mid lane, though. You can see trading already going down. Neither one going to have kill pressure on the other at this stage of the game.
Or any stage of the game. It's Karma, I'm afraid. I think I've once been killed by a Karma. And that was just the Karma playing really well in the way in which she used her Mantra Q. If you eat a lot of them and you don't have the sustain to keep up with it, you can get bursted out. And funnily enough, there is a cool combo that you can do where you throw out your Q, you put the shield on yourself, you run up to them, you then apply the binding, and then that sets you up perfectly to land your Mantra Q, because they've been rooted up, they can't avoid it. So that is a combo that you can use, but you invest a lot to go for that trade. So if you screw it up, you end up up a creek without a paddle, basically.
Definitely not where you want to be, especially against a mid laner like Selfie, but obvious. Move over to take this first stack, not before drilling down a little bit of vision, however. We're looking for the gank here. Selfie, he's on the bottom side, may have a way out. Snare gonna come down, is gonna go through. This is what we talked about, 2 stacks, 3 stacks of mounting dread, and first blood going over to Obvious. Happy to have that one. May not grab a stack, but 400 gold, just as good.
So Obvious can still make early game plays. Selfie just ever so slightly overextended in the middle lane, and Magifelix using that focused resolve to land the binding, but now he might be the one in trouble.
TP coming in, concussive blows, going to land. Mantra'd Snare coming through to grab a little extra healing onto that Karma, and that's pretty much exactly what you want.
Do you know what was really unfortunate about that flash from Selfie? This is something that I feel a lot of people that have played against LeBlanc will experience, where you get rooted, you flash, trying to get out of range of the root, but it's just not quite enough out of range. So you burn your flash and you still get rooted, and it's
Morgana,
just one of those...
Karma, LeBlanc, you've played against this champion, you know the pain. You think you make it to safety, doesn't quite happen.
Very unfortunate. However, Selfie's still sitting on a healthy farm lead right now.
Yep, exactly where we want to be, as well as the healthy farm lead for Wisdom in the jungle, but of course the kill going out Obvious, making it pretty easy. Has picked up that Hunter's Potion for more sustain.
Interesting stat about Obvious. He has been involved during their qualifiers. He was involved in 4 of the 5 first bloods that ESG picked up. They got first blood in 4 of the 5 games, and Obvious himself took 3 of them. This guy loves to get first bloods, and now that stat's even been amplified by him getting this first blood here.
When you got to think, it's just so hard to get away from the Kindred with red buff and that challenging smite. Of course, no red buff this time around is finally going to fall off, but true damage over time, pretty effective for burning down these tankier top laners. Oh, great stun. That hitbox, no one's excited about that one. Hado, though, taking a lot, is going to get sent up here. Ignite drops, heal comes immediately after, goes over the wall. Dream's going to follow, not quite what you want. Moving forward, go! Cancels the animation with the flash, the Braum, bread and butter, but actions on the top lane, double flashes burned, and Alfari going to walk away unscathed. Misfits are making plays.
But the action isn't quite over yet. Have a look at the positioning of Wisdom. The minion wave is not in a great situation for Cedric right now. He has to overextend just a little bit, and Wisdom might be looking for a potential collapse, but he is instead just going to go get himself a bit of deep vision. So action happening all across the map right there for both Misfits and ESG. Misfits in the bottom. Unfortunately for Cedrian and Hado, they overextended just a bit. Dreams is able to get a lot of concussive blows down. As you rightly said, going for the flash auto to actually cancel the animation guarantees that kill. And then Alfari actually getting the 2 versus 1 outplay and getting away with his life is pretty significant for Misfits in this early game.
Moving forward, exactly what they want. Wisdom going to clear this out just a little bit. In the top lane, oh, level 6 advantage. Trundle trying to step out of the stun is going to still get locked up. Not going to be too much more of a trade, but Alphari feeling quite comfortable now that he has that ult.
So one thing that I have noticed between Phones and Alphari is on a mechanical individual level, Alphari is the stronger laner. And the only time Phones has come out ahead during the laning phase is when he's had a matchup that suits him. So, for example, the Gnar into the Maokai, the Gnar into the Trundle. But now that he's Echo into Trundle, where the matchup is a little bit more even and there's room for outplay potential, you can just see Alphari dominating that lane. He's 55 to the 43 CS. In a 2 versus 1, he's still able to get the outplay. And he's just showing why this guy has such a reputation as being a talented top laner.
Yeah, but at the same time, it looks like ESG may have plans to change that. 3 members moving forward. Alphari on the wrong side of that minion wave. Snare goes down. Alphari sure to drop here, and Phone's going to grab that kill. You said he needs an advantage. Well, there's one provided to him right away.
Yeah, unlucky for Alphari. He didn't have the flash from the earlier gank that was set up. 3 members, I don't care how good you are. I mean, 3 members should be enough to get the kill, especially when you have the root from MagiFelix, you have the stun from Phones, and you have the slow from Obvious. Everything that you need to set yourself up for a very early kill. So, nice collapse coming out from ESG to extend their kill lead to 2-1.
Yep, Obvious, of course, going to grab his first stack off the back of this Rift Herald, or Rift Scuttler. Not quite a Rift Herald.
Crab.
Scuttle Crab.
Scuttle Crab.
Rift
How
Crab.
can you forget Steve
Rift
the Scuttle
Scuttle.
Crab?
That's what always threw me off. Rift Herald, Rift Scuttler, Herald Crab. It's a Herald Crab. Moving forward, of course, happy to have that first stack. A little bit behind schedule, though. We've seen games where Kindred's been able to stack up very quickly. And unfortunately, things aren't going quite so well in the bottom lane. Sivir uses the spell shield on the trap to get some mana back. Caitlyn says, well, now you can eat the ace in the hole.
Yeah, we already discussed how challenging this matchup is for the Sivir. You are very low range. When you don't have your support in the lane, you're just getting zoned off of all of the farm. So Cedra not having the happiest of times, but they have on the hunts. They can force these engages. You have the Tempered Fade as well, so ever so slight out of positioning coming out from Misfits, and then all you need is the extra bit of damage from Obvious, and you're well on your way to getting yourself an early kill. Speaking of Obvious, he's actually decided to go for the challenging smite. Now, this is something that we've been seeing a lot of variation in from the junglers recently. Some choose to prioritize the Tracker's Knife. They want that bit of extra vision, whereas others want more of the damage. They want to be able to trade, and Obvious picking up this challenging smite is basically saying, I want to fight you, I want to look for these skirmishes, and I potentially want to be the carry of ESG.
Oh, Flash Cocoon, immediate flash coming in from Haddo. They knew Elise was on the way. Reactions primed and ready. A good trade of flashes there. Wisdom maybe just trying to rinse and repeat, but the pings are coming out for the Cloud Drake. They start to take this one down. Everybody's
favorite dragon has arrived. Some fun, cool trivia about the Cloud Drake. It's actually the hardest dragon to kill because it has the highest attack speed, and it's actually much better at chasing targets than any of the other dragons. So not only is it the dragon that few people want to invest in, but it's also the dragon that's the most difficult to kill.
Maybe not the most difficult to kill compared to the Mountain Drake, of course, and all its extra resistances.
Yeah, you're all right.
The most difficult to 1v1,
yes,
without a doubt.
Precisely.
The highest damage output of any dragon will just chase you down.
As opposed to the Elder Dragon, I suppose.
Yeah, well, highest Drake damage output. Got to distinguish. One's a big dragon. You got the baby Drakes. Of course, happy to have that movement speed buff out of combat. We'll make it a little bit faster to get to those lanes, but not really going to be a major difference. We've seen it be a pretty low priority for most of the teams coming in here. But we'll check in once again on the score lines, 2-1. Gold still in favor of Misfits, however, about an 800 lead, as well as that dragon backing them up. You can see that lead comes from the mid lane farm differential, the top lane farm, and most importantly, the jungle. Despite this, Kindred has finished up the first item a little bit ahead of Elise. Elise just waiting to go back.
Yeah, Blood Razor finished for Kindred. Synergizes very nicely with her kit, gives you the attack speed and also does damage based on the target's maximum health. So it actually gets better the later the game goes on, but during the early game it doesn't have as much impact. But Kindred doesn't, it doesn't bother Kindred that much because her passive does percentage current health. So she's pretty much got all bases covered at every stage of the game.
If she can get those stacks. Currently at 1, maybe looking to grab a second as we push forward. Dreams, he knows something's going down here. He's not sure what, but he's not happy about it. Of course, a lot of that movement spotted out by the pink board. However, the duel continues on the top side of the map. Echo
takes a lot of damage.
Not going to get that stun either. Victor coming forward, getting some damage down. That is a fat chunk of damage coming in from Selfie. Ooh, you gotta respect that, Victor. Cocoon goes down, Had out potentially in trouble. There's the knockup. Tempered Fate, no opportunity to come out. Elise has the jungle item completed and now able to rip through those health bars, threatening so much in the jungle.
So the fact that Selfie got that big chunk of damage down onto Obvious meant that Wisdom and Dreams could feel a lot more confident moving in and trying to steal a couple of the neutral monster camps, as well as getting a bit of deep vision down. But Hanno doesn't respect the potential collapse coming out from Dreams and Wisdom. He's super squishy this early on as well, so he ends up giving a free kill over to the side of Misfits. And now that's going to make life awful for Cedrium, because he's going to get completely zoned away from the turret. He's going to lose all of this farm, and Misfits are likely going to pick up the first dragon of the game. So now you're starting to wonder, maybe that lane swap would have been a better option for ESG.
Well, looking, ESG are going to be able to get the Rift Herald in exchange, giving it over to the top laner here. Once again, Phone's happy to have this advantage, but really at what cost? 1K gold lead now for Misfits. They haven't even taken the tower yet. This is going to extend to about 2,000. Just a moment, pushing forward. Finally going to grab it, and really, gold for Rift Herald buff. We're going to have to see which one is better in the end.
So, looking across some of the items, Selfie once again deciding to go for the Mark II Hex Core. I think that he could get away with not going for the Abyssal Scepter early this game, because Karma's not really going to be the main damage dealer. He might need to be a little bit worried about the Echo, who has actually picked up that Glimpse of the Void buff. But he has the choice. Looks like he's decided to stick with his build. Personally, not a massive fan of it, but he can get away with it if he decides to put some more early prioritization on getting that Rylai's. Because right now, I do feel like the Rylai's is the core on Victor. You need that slow to help maximize the DPS coming out from your ultimate. Keeping people within it so that you get as many ticks as possible is really going to help Selfie have a big impact in these mid-game fights.
Of course. Opting for the Lost Chapter for now. We have seen him go straight to Rylai's after that, though. So maybe just looking for the early mana in lane.
Could be. Solid analysis.
It's a guess. We'll see what he decides to go with. Could complete the Morellonomicon. Prove us both wrong. Could buy a Zhonya's or a Death Cap. Who knows? Moving in, though. There's the TP. It's going to get canceled out. Bard ult, of course, coming in as well. Alfari locked up along the wall, but Bard, not quite enough damage to be a real threat there. And ESG responding to movement on the map, grabbing an additional stack for Obvious as well.
Interesting. So Misfits rotating their strong duo lane up to the top half of the map to continue the pressure. Really what ESG needed to do is match it, otherwise they're now just going to give away 2 objectives for free. But because they realized the pressure that was coming out, they've sent 3 members down to the bottom lane. They're going to get themselves a return turret. They might look to continue pressing on because they know where Misfits are right now due to the defensive vision that they have lined up. And this could actually be a great play for ESG right now. It depends whether or not they decide to go for the dive onto Alfari, which with the subjugate could be very risky for him.
Absolutely could. Really got to be careful about where you choose to dive. High risk game. Have to be careful not to give those leads away, and ESG very aware of this as they sit on the cusp of being eliminated, but they're not afraid to look for the dive. That's 3 stacks on the Mounting Dread. Boomerang Blade comes through, the final stack rather on the Mounting Dread, going to grab that kill. ESG get the dive, and now they're poised to grab the tower. Back from Wisdom canceled, but what is it worth?
Is this game 2? Because I seem to remember this happening in game 2, where Misfits, they rotate their bottom lane round to the top half of the map to try and take some turrets. ESG just 3 members strong, go to the bottom half of the map, set up a dive onto Alfari, get themselves a kill, get themselves a tier 2, and get themselves a nice early advantage. I guess the big difference is the fact that Misfits are able to return the pressure. Wisdom being in the right place at the right time enables Misfits to get a tier 2 turret of their own. So overall, no real net game other than the kill that ESG were able to get out. But perhaps ESG are going to respond with a dragon for themselves.
Would be happy to have it. Of course, additionally, we really have to be aware that, I mean, ESG shifting the gold. Once again, Misfits were so far ahead in farm in the early game, but still have those smaller farm leads, but the gold leads sort of minimized here. Not quite 2K in the favor of Misfits anymore. So despite trading those objectives, the kill is helping balance that out. But we've seen this before. ESG had the kill lead last time around, and it didn't count for much as Misfits just continued to grab those early objectives.
It does seem that way. Ooh, Selfie. Using that ultimate to...
He's wondering, he's like, when are they going to patch it in so that the Chaos Storm can follow you through the
Chaos Storm has feelings too. It wants to go on an adventure of self-discovery. But if we do see Yuki sitting up in the mid lane, could be overextended.
Not gonna see it, just a flash coming out. Has to be careful now, Cedrian. I love it when she blocks the trap, because she always says back off. It's like no one's hitting you. It's a trap. Who are you talking to, Cedrian?
Looking towards her own team, being like, back off! Like,
I'll block the trap.
Okay.
Bard's like, I thought my line would stand behind me. Oh, he's on the other team though, so yeah, now it makes sense.
That all makes sense. The plot has thickened. I missed that quote then.
I don't even know what that one was. I just love that it's all these like cocky lines. Like, I don't care if you don't want to BM as a player. Ooh, look at that. Just walking right between the traps.
It's unfortunate there's no mastery in this tournament client. The streams get stunned up.
Stun coming in, but the TP coming in on the backside as well. Jumping in, Dreams getting burned down. Echo trying to find the kill, is going to have to run away, but Alfari, the Kindred, just ripping through that health bar. Obvious. Githat's pick, he puts it to work. Moving in, Zedrian not going to block it. Moving in, looking for more damage. Karma flash forward, trying to get an auto attack down, sticking around in the area, trying to get more. They are going to kill Wisdom. They will kill Wisdom as he finally drops Obvious with the Lamb's Respite to survive this one through, and suddenly ESG take control.
ESG finding a fight that works for them. Misfits not in a great position right there because they forced themselves into a choke point that allowed Phones to initially get that stun down onto Dreams. The big thing is both teams posturing around the Dragon, trying to get a bit of vision control around it. And I feel like, given the fact that the Dragon's not even up, it's not really a great place that you want to be trying to force these fights. We are going to get a replay to properly break down how that one went down, but the main person you need to keep your eyes on is Obvious, who, sitting at the back line, constantly doing this main damage, and this is something that we talked about. ESG looking to play around Obvious being the main damage dealer is exactly what they need to be doing. So look at this, Obvious, sitting at the back line, being able to get a lot of damage down onto Alfari, but he is not being touched whatsoever. He's getting so much support and utility off the back of Magifelix that he's just free to do what he wants, and Cedron's being on the front line, being like, oh, focus me, I'm just the AD carry, oh no. But Obvious is the real threat right there. The Meep Slap is actually what gets the kill down onto Wisdom, so Dreams trying to jump to him and defend him actually resulted in his death, so pretty cool pickup coming out there from Hado. But still, ESG fighting themselves a team fight win, still actually behind in gold.
Yeah, we gotta say, really explosive play coming in from ESG. Despite the gold difference, however, Kindred continues to stack up that mark of the Kindred. 1-1 the score for Dragons, a cloud apiece. Not gonna mean too much, but Kindred happy to have the 5 stacks. Went from 1 just about 10 minutes ago to now moving to 5 as well. So the game just starting to open up. You can see her 6th and final jungle stack being marked out, but there is the Tempered Fate, the dive going down onto the tower, moving forward. That's so much damage onto Yuki, instantly destroyed. Dreams overstaying his welcome. Suddenly, Selfie, the last man standing under the tower, he's gonna get one back in exchange, but what is it worth? ESG are 4 members strong, and they're pushing down the mid lane.
This is the great pick potential that you have to be wary of, and now we're seeing why it's called the murder train, because if you walk into the path of it, it is just gonna roll straight over you. So much damage coming out from ESG. Obvious again, completely untouched, but they want more.
Oh, Wisdom, what goes up must come down, and unfortunately that means the end of Wisdom's life as he's just gonna try to run this one out. Not enough. Alfari, are you next? Trying to move forward. Obvious giving him enough respect to back off here, but they will move to take this tower in the end. They were behind just moments ago, but now a 2K gold lead is going to back them up.
ESG gaining so much more control over this game right now. 9-3 in the kill score. They've accrued themselves a 2,000 gold lead, and they are just looking like a completely different team. It does seem to be that Blue Side has all the power in this series, because so far, if things keep going the way they're going, it's going to be a 100% Blue Side win as we jump into a replay. So have a look at this. Tempered Fate comes out from the Hano, lands onto the primary target as Yuki's actually challenging his Q, and then he just gets obliterated. The teleport is way too slow. Dreams is the next one to follow. Selfie teleports into 4, and while he gets 1 kill, he just hands one straight back over, and there's nothing he can do about it. ESG set up for another dive. Well, they just want the objective. Wisdom slightly overextends. Big Mantra Q onto Wisdom, sets the slow up. He's forced to repel very early on, and that results in ESG getting themselves another kill down onto him, and that once again goes on to Obvious. 4-0-5, 9 kills total, 100% kill participation for this man, and the moment we saw that Kindred is really where you sit there and you go, yeah, it's an obvious pick.
Throw my own mediocre pun back in my face. I love it. You're completely right, though. Obvious absolutely dominating this match. And Misfits, they are making moves to get the gold back. They're starting to even things up. They take that mid lane tower. But the big question mark has to be, what are they going to do moving forward? That said, I want to look at the itemization. Selfie looks like he's on track to build as we expected. On the opposite side, though, for Felix, things continue to be interesting.
Yeah, it looks like he's decided to pick himself up the Athene, so you do actually provide healing or shielding to your allies, depending on what you decide to give. So the larger the shields from Felix, it's just going to be even bigger once he manages to pick up those blood stacks on top of that Athene's. And it's a quite interesting item, but it tells you that Magi is playing around Obvious. He said to Obvious, look, mate, you've got to be doing all the work right now because I'm just a lowly mid laner. What can I do? Gonna pick up the Rod of Ages, gonna pick up the Athenes. He's gonna be very difficult to kill with all the resistances and, you know, sort of health that he has with the Rod of Ages. And Obvious going for a pretty heavy damage build. Interesting itemization choice so far. Hasn't decided to complete anything yet. And I'm gonna look to see what he puts some priority on.
Is this Trinity Force Kindred, or is this
it's got to be Phantom
Runedanc's
Dancer.
Hurricane, Phantom Dancer, and, or Black Cleaver? Zeal item Black Cleaver
I
feels
think
like
Zeal
what it
item
would be.
Black Cleaver could be.
Ooh, look at this.
Plenty of options. Man and Drake at spawns. Misfits first on top of it.
Yep, they're going to burn through this one very quickly. ESG just going to push down the mid lane. They don't want to take the time to walk through those Caitlyn traps. Cannot risk getting collapsed on. But the top lane tower is being pinged out. 4 members moving their way up. Bard, Obvious, traveling together so far. Trundle just going to have to run away from this one. They're trying to find the collapse. Kindred quick hop over the wall. Stun. Not quite going to land onto Alfari, but both teams are moving in now. Tower's not going to drive quite so easily, although Dreams is going to take a lot of damage from that Karma. And ESG will finally grab that in the end, and the gold's still in their favor as the trap lines just continue from Yuki, trying to get somebody to step on this.
So what Misfits need to do, right, is find a good fight. I mean, you could argue that's everyone's win condition. No, just get a good fight and win. But Misfits' team composition kind of has too many win conditions. Trundle is not great at starting fights, but you have Caitlyn and Victor who are actually really good in fights. Notice how great ESG actually are at separating Alfari from the rest of his team, because even though he has the Subjugate, he's not actually getting that many tanky stats. Echo, still primarily an AP tank, and then the rest are pretty much just carries on the side of ESG. So his Subjugate not really doing that much work. He gets shred through, at least good at finding these picks, but I mean the follow-up from the pick is not that great because Victor, yes, he has a lot of burst damage, but you really want to be using all of that onto a single target. So while Misfits have a number of options and another number of potential win conditions, right now they're struggling to find which one they should actually try and capitalize on.
Definitely not where you want to be. Clear execution has been the core to victory in these games, and for ESG it looks like they know exactly what they want out of their comp. You can see Karma falling behind into the farm department, but just putting those resources elsewhere. Sivir ahead of the Caitlyn in terms of itemization.
There's the Phantom Dancer done for Obvious as well, so looks like he is going to go for a little bit of an off-tank with that damage reduction that you do get.
I love how it's like our off-tank items are so odd. It's like Death's Dance is an off-tank item. Phantom Dancer is an off-tank item. The league has evolved in such an interesting way. Of course, we do see that stack go through for Obvious in the end. Moving forward, though, looks like we could have the pick. This is the fight in the jungle. Selfie trying to gear up, but 2 members are locked out. Selfie all on his lonesome now. On the hunt, going to be burned, and they're looking for the disengage. Alfari waiting for that pillar. But beautiful disengage from Hadow is going to save the ESG lineup.
Really good Tempered Fate onto the 2 backline members of Misfits. Selfie forced to use his flash, which means he's not going to have that available in the next fight, but the same goes for Cedrian as well. So his positioning is going to be very important as Wister.
Obvious going forward. He is going to get stunned up, though. Do they have the damage to burn him down? It does not look like it. Selfie and Yuki alive, though. Alfari in the middle of the Lamb's Respite. That is perfect for the Misfits lineup. They're moving forward. ESG trying to turn this one around, but the shutdown comes through. Selfie on the backlines. Yuki dishing out the damage. Cedrian the next to drop. Misfits turn that fight on its head, and they're back in the game.
And it's all because Obvious was forced to use that Lamb's Respite to keep himself alive, because he is pretty much all of the damage on top of ESG right now. Caitlyn, she hasn't had an opportunity to get those 3 main items that she really needs, and now Misfits, feeling very confident, are going to go for the Baron.
Hadow drops incredibly low. Felix, the last member, really able to contest here, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Maybe looking for the cheeky steal. Gets hit by the trap. Damage drops on him, but at the end of the day, the Baron now dropping for Misfits. The gold once again shifting in their favor.
So there's the big team fight that Misfits were looking for. While they have a number of win conditions, overall their team fighting is good if you force your opponents into a choke point. So have a look at this Wisdom. It looks like he's caught... or he's been caught out of position, but the stun goes down onto Obvious, and Obvious is just taking a lot of damage. He's then forced to use the Lamb's Respite, which in all honesty, I don't think he needed to do. If he just held on to it a little bit longer, maybe they could have got the kill down to Alphari, but he does not do that. It allows Alphari and Wisdom to reposition by enough time for Yuki and Selfie to basically clean up the fight on the backline, and this is the teamfight prowess that this Victor and Caitlyn have, especially when you're in a situation where you're just free to do all this damage from the side, and you don't have to worry about the frontline threat of ESG.
And additionally, when they don't catch out Alphari, he is this almost unkillable tanky threat. And if Sivir ever gets caught, like we saw her, who potentially get caught again, jumping back to the team there. If they ever get caught, it just feels impossible to win that fight because Alphari he may not be able to engage, but once the fight starts, he has everything he needs.
So now Misfits looking to set up a siege. They have the Caitlyn, they have the poke from the Victor as well. They've also got the trap line, so ESG, while they've got a fair amount of wave clear, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to deal with the kind of pressure that Misfits are putting down onto them. Fortunately, for the time being, ESG are able to hold them off, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep this up.
Moving in, Dreams for the setup. Selfie off to the side. Throwing out a bit of damage there. Echo looking for the parallel convergence. He's going to grab a Quiet. Alphari trying to rip through that tower. Minions doing a lot of work here. It is going to drop. Gold lead extends. Bones jumps forward though. Selfie, has he bit off more than he can chew? Stun goes down. Obvious. One more tick. He gets it. Is going to do it, but Bones snap back, dash forward. 3 stacks of Z drive. 1 kill dropping down. Moving forward, maybe looking for more here. Parallel convergence. Bones leaping in. ESG at his back. Ready to move in to help their top laner out. But Misfits continuing to scrap out here. Snare goes down. Soul Flare as well. Phones ready to go over the wall, but both sides going to back away.
So Misfits, they could have gone a lot more there, but because Yuki wasn't in the fight, they just didn't have the damage that they needed to get any further kills off the back of that. But Selfie being able to find a solo kill down onto Obvious was actually massive, and if Misfits had just kept their pressure up into the mid lane, maybe they could have turned it into something more. But they're going to take themselves the tier 2 turret, they're going to take themselves a kill, and they're going to claim themselves back into the position of the gold lead. Now, Misfits, I mean, they were struggling for such a long time, and you have to wonder how this weighs on ESG right now, because they were in such a good position to potentially bring this to all 5 games, and now they're on the back foot. Now Misfits are sitting at a healthy gold lead. Their teamfight composition is starting to make life difficult for ESG, and ESG are the ones that kind of have to make the play to get themselves back in.
Yeah, pressure on them to really turn this one around again. Misfits maybe looking to take another dragon, but let's watch that fight one more time. As you go in, you see the tower focus go down, but you got to keep your eyes on Selfie in this one.
Yeah, have a look at Obvious on the flank. He's just trying to get in at an angle, but Selfie's just like, well, I'm just going to kill you. Obvious, he doesn't respect the ultimate. He gets caught up in the gravity field, and he ends up going down. Now, Selfie, he can't deal with the damage coming out from Phones, who, to be fair on this Echo, can do a fair amount with the Iceborne Gauntlet.
And once you hit that low health threshold, of course, Echo just starts to hit that % missing health damage. Really starts to bust it out there, but a little bit of a mistake coming in from Obvious. Getting over aggressive, not respecting the Chaos Storm damage. Cloud Drake will go down now on the side.
That's my mantra for the...
Your mantra?
For the CSQ, yeah, respect the ultimate. Because I feel like a lot of people don't realize how much damage these ultimates can do on the new patch. Like the Vlad ultimate, the Azir ultimate, the Victor ultimate. There's just so many ultimates that you got to respect the damage out of it.
The Karma ultimate.
Yeah, all right, maybe not so much, but...
The joke is that it's called Mantra. Yeah! Mediocre wordplay. That's what I'm here for. I'll be here all game. Bones taking a lot of poke in terms of CC, but not actually taking too much damage.
Selfie and Yuki sitting on the front lines as Alphari left back up on his island, and actually there's no one there to contest him. If nobody responds to Alphari, there's no teleport. He could get this turret for free.
Maybe. He does have the Mountain Drake backing him up as well as the double Cloud. Second he gets out of combat there, he's just going to zoom away before resuming his push. You can see the split pressure. Elise debating where exactly to go, but decides to push in the mid lane, so it looks like it will be the 1-3-1.
Does look that way. I think that Wisdom moving over to the mids just wants to try and add that extra bit of pressure that ESG have to respond to, because then if Misfits ever get a slight number advantage in the bottom lane, they can set it for the dive. And against a Kindred, that could be pretty risky, especially against a Bard as well, because you have the Lamb's Respite and you also have the Tempered Fate, which can turn your dive awry if you do not play it properly. But so far, Misfits' execution have been pretty solid. They struggled earlier on. They couldn't quite get the fights that they needed, but after that one fight in that choke point in the top half of the map, Misfits have been looking a lot more confident.
So what do you think the next choice is here, looking at the jungle Elise itemization coming out? So far, it's very AP focused, although, thought we weren't going to get a chance to talk about it, but Yuki just going to blow the flash there.
So it looks like that Wisdom's working towards the Zhonya's next. I think that's a little bit greedy. You could go towards the Frozen Heart, which would work wonders up against Obvious. And also you have to remember that pretty much all of the damage is coming out from Obvious. Now, well, now Cedrin has completed 3 major items. He's going to be hurting a little bit more in these team fights. Those ricochets, if all of Misfits group up, will be doing a ton of damage too. So now there's a couple more threats. You also have to respect Phones, who, to be fair to him, has been doing a lot of work on these backlines. So I think there are a number of options. Wisdom, okay, so Deathcap, okay, well, and wasn't expecting that.
And Darkseal. Deathcap, Darkseal, Wisdom.
Wants to be a wizard, apparently.
Solo queue hero, Wisdom. Builds full AP. What is the strength of the full AP Elise in this situation?
I mean, you do a lot of damage. That's literally the strength. Do I agree with it? No, but I'm all for people finding their inner wizard. So it's all about the wizardry, as Misfits, trying to get a bit of deep vision down, want to be able to control this Baron that spawns in 35.
Dashing in, looking for the stun. Decent damage down on the Selfie, but the fight is going to continue here. Magic Felix moving forward. Selfie and Dreams doing their best, but Selfie actually going to turn around and look for this. TP comes in. Alfari suddenly among the team. Echo looks to snap back with the Chrono Shift, but it may be too little too late. Elise goes up. Is going to come down there, moving away out of that. Oh, it doesn't have the tanky stats to survive Obvious's onslaught there. Things are starting to turn around. Phones jumping back in, but 3 members of Misfits turn to focus. Tempered Fate to buy some time. Yuki drops the trap. Phones, is he going to make it out? Yes, he is not. Selfie going to burn through that one, and suddenly 2 kills go in the favor of Misfits. Wisdom drops. Doesn't look like it's going to stop them, though. They're moving right towards the Baron.
So you look at the risks of trying to be a wizard right now, and it does make you so incredibly squishy that you just get chunked out. But Misfits, because Yuki was sitting on the backline, free dealing damage throughout that entire fight, he's actually able to pick up 2 kills for Misfits, and now with the numbers advantage, they want this Baron.
On. They don't have a Smite. They have a Victor. They have the Caitlyn. Can they get it? Cedrian is running forward, looking to get it. Selfie's going to take the Baron. Cedrian, he looks like he's poised to drop. No, the Inspire coming in from Karma. Had out running out, but Misfits get the Baron. Absolute devastation here. Things have to be looking grim for the side of ESG. This is their last chance to find a win.
Things were looking pretty promising, but the problem is ESG keep finding these fights in these small enclosed jungle spaces where, to be honest, Misfits' composition just does so much work. Caitlyn has plenty of obstacles to hide behind. Victor has so many options where to place his gravity field. I mean, just look at that. It forces 3 members of ESG to sit at the back without actually being able to close the gap, and that buys enough time for Alfari to just dive onto the front line, act as a massive nuisance, and this is where things start to split apart. Phones sitting on the back half of the map, Wisdom sitting on the right hand, and just keep your eyes on what Yuki is doing, because Obvious splitting off in one direction, Phones drawing attention in the other, and Yuki is just doing so much damage. They're able to pick up the next kill onto Phones, and now with the 4 versus 3 that they have in their favor, they try to force the Baron, and they're actually able to pick that one up, so impressive stuff coming out from them as Phones is caught out.
Wisdom, AP Elise doing a lot of damage, threading through that health bar. Phones running for his life. Oh, Stack is going to drop. Alt's going to kill him as well. Phones, that's a quick pickup for Misfits, but the rest of the team from ESG is moving down mid lane, getting aggressive. Cedrian looking for a fight. Ooh, so much aggressive trading, both sides. Game balanced on a knife's edge here for a brief moment as both teams are getting aggressive, but the pings are coming out onto the inhibitor. Misfits are ready to break the base.
The fact that Phones has been caught out is absolutely massive for Misfits right now. Alfari free to just split push on the side lane. He's level 18, he has the Baron buff, no one can contest him, and he's freely going to be able to pick up all these big objectives.
Breaking the last inner tower. The rest of the team looking to break open the inhibitor line. Traps down to make sure that there cannot be an advance coming in from the Caitlyn composition. But Obvious is moving forward on the hunt is Burn. Selfie flashing to safety. Health bar ticking down, but he is going to live. Gravity Field in the meantime wreaking havoc on the back line, but Alphari just doesn't care. He's too fast. He's too tanky. Phones, though, looking for the flank. This is an opportunity, but the team's not even there anymore. He wants to pick up the Caitlyn, but one major mistake could cost them everything. Misfits, they're barreling into the base. Echo nowhere to be found. Magic Felix is down. The AP Elise dishing out enough damage. Caitlyn, one more auto attack. Obvious going to save the day, but can they stay in the game? They're poised to end the game. Alphari moving to take this one. Tempered Fate on 3, but they cannot kill the Trundle. Everything seems to be going south here for ESG. So for the United Kingdom, for Ireland, Misfits are going to win the series and earn themselves a place in the Summer Challenger Series.
Congratulations to Misfits. I mean, to be honest, I wish I could be more hyped, but like, I'm still blown away by that teleport the Phones did at the very end of the game. You have 4 members of Misfits sieging onto the bottom half of the map, and you decide to teleport to your blue for a flank play. That was just, I mean, that gave away the game. I mean, Phones...
One moment of miscommunication is all it takes.
Phones at the very end there, giving away that pick, just set up everything that Misfits needed to close that out. And fair play to Misfits, finding the fight that actually brought them back into it, but that was ESG's game to lose. They had the gold lead. They had the comp that could win them the game and bring it to 2-2.
This is something we talked about in Game 2, because even when ESG found that dominating win, we saw them, you know, come pretty close to losing a lot of team fights based purely on execution, and it felt like Misfits, yes, they had the early deficit, but they managed to bounce that back. Game 3 and Game 4, much slower, but still, Misfits finding the advantages time and time again, and really impressive overall from the team.
Yeah, it was still a great series to watch. I do want to give credit to ESG, forcing Misfits to fight for that spot, because ESG, we have to remember, at the start of this tournament came in 0-2, and they managed to reclaim themselves all the way back up and fight for a shot in the Challenger Series. And I think that as a team, they showed a lot of impressive stuff. Obvious and Magi Felix are really standout players for me that had a large impact that were, you know, if things went a little bit better, perhaps they would have made it through.
Yeah, and of course, with that set now decided, let's take a look at the bracket that has brought us here thus far. Misfits have now qualified 3-1 over ESG, and we will see them in the EU Challenger Series this summer. These guys looking incredibly strong, absolutely dominant in that performance. Shout-outs to them, of course. Now all that's left is to figure out who will win between 4G and SK. And at the end of the day, pretty impressive. Misfits, of course, have now qualified for the 2016 European Challenger Summer Split, but one more slot remains. And when we get back from break, 4G and SK will fight for their lives in our second set of the day. From Vedius and myself, goodbye, and we'll see you guys in the LCS.